Hi there, welcome to my channel or welcome back. Hi, feel free to subscribe if you're interested in any of these things right here. Also, my room is kind of different right now. It's freaking me out. We had guests stay over. So because we had guests stay over, we had to move beds around and things of that nature. And so I'm feeling out of place, but also the guests have just left, and so I'm in this strange headspace. Why not vlog? Let's turn our camera on. You know, why not? So how are you guys doing? As always, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you guys doing? What are you interested in? I would like to know. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys are interested in right now. What's got you jazzed about life? Is it the weather changing? Because I can feel like it really does feel, not to sound like a basic uh, NPC, but I feel something within me, like my soul returning after a very dark, long night in the actual literal pits of hell. It feels so good to return to my body after so long of being gone. Other than that, so what I've been consuming lately, what I have been consuming, other than feeling the literal fire returning into my heart and into the seat of my soul, like I have life and purpose and vitality. I feel like, in Jennifer, from Jennifer's Body, after she eats a boy, that's how I feel. I feel like exceptionally youthful and playful and happy and excited about living again. And I don't think that's necessarily good that the weather has such a control over my physical body and my mental health. I don't think that that is good, especially not weather in South Texas. It is, in a word, abusive, manipulative, a bitch. So it's very, in the nicest way, difficult to live here because, well, it sucks. But what I've been consuming lately is okay, so this is Lilith Marie. Um and she is my number one bozo, number one crush, number one. What have I been listening to? Chaperone, yes, but I like The Cure as well. Burn by The Cure. So good. Glory Box, fantastic song. But also there was another song, Fade Into You, Maisie Starr. Ha 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 ha. I like songs about losing yourself in something. Um, it feels good, like floating. I don't know. It's nice. Anyways, oh my god, I was at HEB. I was at the store getting coffee filters, and my mom dedicated this song to me when I was like 10 years old, and she was crying, and I was like, Mom, why are you crying? And she was like, this song I dedicate to you. I don't know the name of the song. I'll put it here. But essentially the song says, it's like the sailor speaking to Brandy. I don't know if he's speaking to Brandy, a woman, or speaking to Brandy, the alcoholic beverage. But he's like, said Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. But alas, my loving my lady is the sea. And it's like, Brandy, Brandy, or whatever. Anyways, we're friends. We can play around like that, yeah. Sorry, I just assaulted your ears. But anyways, she dedicated that song to me, and I haven't heard it in years. I used to have like this whole collection of music from the 1960s and 50s that I would play over and over and over again. I had this gigantic 7-disc CD player that was very old, like a stereo system. And so what I would do is I'd put my 1960s music into each one and just listen to them while I was just laying on the floor as a kid, just trying to feel something, right? And I would feel things. I would feel a lot of stuff. I feel like music from that era has a lot of emotion in it. I don't know, but I'm also a very simple girl with my music. I like gothic music because it's like bass to me is important. Bass is super important in a song for me. So sometimes I do enjoy extremely fast metal, like death metal and things like that. Sometimes I do enjoy that. I do because I grew up around it, and so there's this familiarity I have within myself. Like parts of myself are with Lamb of God and things like that. But then there's other parts of myself that are like in love with the slow beats of gothic music. Sometimes it's like very slow and very like it feels different. It feels unreal. But yeah, it's so real, you know? And those feelings I love. Those feelings are so intertangled into my heart. Those strange feelings that are beneath the surface, moving, pulsing, and also magnetic and attractive and delicious, savory, and slow. And I like things that are very drawn out. Obviously, I put podcast style videos on YouTube, but I like things that take time. That take time because it really you could feel it. I don't like rushing things and stuff like that because I feel like everything gets lost within the swiftness of an interaction, I suppose. I feel like with things being fast, like if you have a very short interaction with somebody, you're only allowed to truly be funny. That's how, at least that's the rules that are carved into the cave walls of my brain, is that you're only allowed to be funny if the interaction's short because you have to make somebody laugh. And that's perhaps not such a good thing for my brain to have carved out. Um, and that's fine. It's fine. But you know, whenever I finally do allow myself to open up, to like to bloom, you know, it takes time for me to get to a place of, you know, it takes time for me to communicate. It truly, truly does. It's fine. It's just how I am. It's not for everybody, and I don't have to constantly sell myself cheap, I suppose, in order to, I don't know, create a communication with somebody or create a connection with another human being. You know what I mean? So there's going to be people out there that enjoy these little videos I put out. There will be. I put them out for myself as well because there's things I need to say and work through and whatnot. And it's creative for me and it's fun. Sometimes it's annoying, but I also need to sit with my annoyance and accept her. And she has a voice too within this realm. So, yeah. But so what I'm listening to, that's kind of, I'm listening to music obviously, but it's it's a variety of music, and I swing from like all of these things. There's a really great soundtrack from a movie that I enjoy. It's the American Graffiti soundtrack. It's really, really good if you like older music, which I do. I love like kind of just it does something to me. I don't know. I also sometimes I'll get into like a classical phase of my music ingestion, of my sound consumption. And I remember like especially at night, I love classical music. I love the way it feels. It's pretty and beautiful and it's interesting. They're ghost songs. They've been dead for so many years. It's haunting. It is haunting, and it haunts the halls of my brain caverns. But I like classical music sometimes a lot, especially when I'm alone. Classical music is the thing I go to when I'm alone. When there's other people around, I feel like I feel critical of like the music I put on, you know. So I feel like I have to find a middle for their enjoyment and my enjoyment, like a mood and ambiance, setting the stage kind of thing, which is aggravating. So sometimes it's really great for me to be alone. I enjoy it. But other times, sometimes, even though I am alone, people still have access to me via the internet or Facebook or Instagram, and now TikTok. I'm on TikTok. But mostly just to post videos, and then I have my YouTube thing, and people could come find me from there. I don't actually use TikTok to like consume me. I don't like that. I don't like it. It scares me. Number one, it scares me. So That's something I'll have to go sit with, why it scares me so much. Number two, I just post videos that I would have posted on Instagram, on TikTok, hopefully to reach a wider, the other people in the sea of time and space that are perhaps on the same shit I am, right? That's how they say it, right? We're on the same shit. So, yeah, it's just the same stuff you would see on my Instagram or Facebook and whatnot. But this is where I post like nitty gritty stuff. So, the other thing I've been doing is like a lot of like movies and show watching. So I'm still watching American Gods, and then I have been on a total I've been on a total Crispin Glover kick, and to me he's the most fascinating, intelligent person in the entire universe. And that's just my personal opinion, and I don't know why people they have such a variety of reaction, but it really could be categorized into like two very distinct reactions, and it's like you get them or you don't. And I feel like I'm in the first. I understand, and so it feels really good to see somebody creating art and living in such a way that is so aligned to like my deepest desires that are within the darkest parts of myself, So there's a hawk. Now I have to see if it's going to go after my chickens, and if it does, I'll have to get up. Hawks are funny because before they attack, they're very loud. So it's like, honey, I know you're there. But yeah, to me personally, one day I'll do a whole entire video on him, on how much of a magnificent person I think he is, because he truly is. It's crazy. There's a lot of things within myself that are complex and difficult to talk about. So, to me, it's highly important for my psyche and my own development to witness, to observe somebody like that. It just is, and I can't truly like string words together to explain the way I feel right now about it, because I haven't really sat with it long enough to sit there and be like, no, why do I feel this way? And that's something that I really need to continuously work on, is understanding, like, why do you feel this way about this particular human being? Like, what is it that it is going on here? And it's not just like, it's a strange thing. But yeah, I think for me personally, in my complex, like, intricate inner world, it's extremely important and relevant for me to observe human beings that are doing things like he's doing. But also there's other people, like even like Chapel Roan, how she's just so open, and like they're very just creative, and I think it's amazing because I have like this barrier between essentially like everything anybody has ever said to me about my creative activities and then what I really want to do. There's like two things within me. There's two walls inside of me. No, but on like a serious, very, very deep level, it's important for me to see people like Crispin Glover existing, because I don't feel alone anymore. And so now I feel like it's important for me to go out and say things and do things, because I know that if he exists, and I can see and resonate with that existence, because it I can't explain it, but his whole like creative career, right? And it's just the most beautiful, immaculate thing I've ever seen, literally, in my entire life. He's walking art, but he's also a fucking genius, and he doesn't care about like, well, he does care, but there's just this confidence in what he's doing, and like he's comfortable with being alone and isolated and just living his own life. And I wish I had that kind of confidence, because that's exactly the way I would like to live. It's just so extremely difficult for me. But also the way he speaks about certain things that have happened to him, like in the industry and with media and stuff like that. Um, there's been a huge issue with me and my life and me dealing with certain people, and like, so it was strange. It's like two different, it sounds so crazy. Whenever you see somebody going through a very similar, how do you say, a very similar event. Yes, that's the word, correct. So when you see somebody going through an extremely similar event as something that you went through, of course it's not the same. I'm not saying like, wow, same, whatever, twinsies. No, I'm saying that it felt like, wow, I feel seen, because I've had to deal with, like, I have had to deal with basically a cult and being a part of something, and being told I had to act a certain way and being puppeteered by these people within this cult, and then constantly used as a puppet in order to make them more like famous and validated, and it was so strange, the type of control that I was under, and I refused to allow this type of corrupt authority figure to constantly use my body to puppet so they could make money. And it was just such a strange experience for me at this place in which I label basically a fucking cult. And all of the delicate, intricate, and psychotic things that were happening behind the scenes with everybody, it completely turned me off wanting to be a part of something ever again, unless it was something that I wanted to do personally. And then I fight with my human nature of wanting to connect and be my mammalian nature, to want to connect and play with others that are like minded. But then there's that disconnect where I was like, don't ever forget what happened to you, because that trauma and that pain resonance is so high and so strange. And for a long time, I couldn't talk about it. And I was constantly still getting like shamed and abused. They were slandering my name, and they had everybody turned against me, and basically blacklisted me from all of my friends, all of the community that I had created within this area. I used to be a night manager at a metaphysical shop, which is also a very strange thing. It's a very unique and strange, how do you say, my events in my life have always been extremely eccentric, and I've always played the fool, the jester, in order to fit in, to make myself digestible for people and things like that. And so just seeing somebody go through something that I feel personally is similar on any level, for me it's healing. So let's just say that for me, watching Crispin Glover is like healing my inner child, my inner like holy divine child, and it's extremely freeing. I feel like he has taken this like very harsh chain around my neck completely off, and just by him existing and doing the art and being there, and that action, witnessing somebody who has gone through all of these things, this roller coaster of events, still holding on to themselves and like isolating and still being interested in art and doing their own thing and whatnot, and not truly like caring, but also and seeing and observing, much like I do with the pattern recognition and the isolation and being on the outside witnessing all these things and trying to provide solutions, and I can't, because they don't care, because there's a whole mechanism to this beast that is large and wild and rampant and destroying everything, such as love, art, all of these things that make human existence flavorful and full of vitality. And like, it pisses me off. It really does. It pisses me off. It's like something that I desire to talk about, but at the same time, I would have to make it digestible for people to understand. And it makes me want to throw up. Let's be honest. It makes me want to like swan dive into the depths of my fucking subconscious and hide there in the shadows and not exist. And just be isolated and alone and just accept that. But it was just interesting. It was very, very interesting. So yeah, back to like, I was a part of something I wasn't allowed to talk about. And then I got involved into a lawsuit, and I was my lawyer's puppets. And just having somebody shove their hands so far into your rib cage and squeeze your heart every fucking time you think about moving or doing or saying, I was being controlled. I was seriously, in every in every in every aspect of my life, I was being recorded by the opposing lawyers. I was being tailed and followed and stalked. They sent private investigators to follow me around, to gather information, to call me a liar, that I did not have like crushed vertebrae, that my spine was not completely destroyed in some way. So, in order to not pay up and do the right thing for somebody T-boning me and me surviving. So, it was interesting to see that the consequences of surviving something as horrific as that car wreck were not only dying and coming back and losing myself personally and like psychologically and seriously mentally, but also the vitality within my body. I was numb in certain areas. I couldn't move. Like I have a twitch I do or something. I don't know how to, it's a thing where I have to like do this or this for a minute. Like in even then it feels so good to just do that, and it's just damage, like irreparable damage was done to my body. And instead of being like, we can fix this, it was met with, you're lying, you're a liar, you just the worst, scummiest, disgusting aspects of human nature were up against me alone. And I had to like succumb to my lawyer and make myself digestible. And then at work, at the metaphysical shop I worked at, they were just the most insidious, disgusting people. And yet they were getting all this recognition because I was out there doing everything for them, like boots on the ground, super codependent, losing myself within servitude, within service, because I believed in what I was doing. I was happy being a night manager at a metaphysical store. I was okay with taking on responsibilities that were maybe too much for $11 an hour, because I loved the books. I loved the knowledge, information, and helping people connect to their subconscious mind. And I loved when people could go find their version of God and serve it, because I thought I was in my element of service, helping people find what their subconscious was saying and connecting their consciousness to their subconscious to create a whole human, a whole entire human being. It was divine exhilaration to see that happen, to see somebody trying to figure out what the creature below the waters was trying to say. And they were like, no, I'm going to listen. It won't stop. I'm going to follow this within myself, following their path, following that, and doing it, not just thinking, oh, I should go get on pills. This is strange. This is strange. It's not what everybody wants me to do. It's not how our society's formed. It doesn't, following your heart and following your path doesn't always lead to monetary gain. It really doesn't, okay? It's better to be a homeless person without any money, following your heart, your truth, your God, your divine light and spark, your Promethean fire. Like, it's just so important. It's so fucking important. So, and the whole machine of how not just Western civilization's made, but also everything that it touches and affects trickles down into everybody self-policing and self-regulating to stamp out love, art, feeling free, and having this creative expression. It's all meant to catastrophically police human beings into not creating, into not being free. You know what I'm saying? The only creation they want you to do is destruction. They want you to destroy yourself and not be too focused on fixing things, because they know it's fucked up. They know it's broken. They know what they're doing. They know that they do it very well. They do it very, very well. And by the time you know what they're doing, it's too late. You're in your 30s. You can't do anything. It starts at a very young age. It is a well-oiled mechanism without a soul, and it doesn't give a fuck who it devours. All of this being said, personally, my life has I've lived many lives within 32 years. I've lived about 1,000 lives in these last 32 years, and I truly do feel like everything that I've witnessed on Earth is just madness. It's wild. So you have to really figure out yourself. You can't just go along with what everybody else wants you to do, because you're going to end up a puppet. You're going to end up with like a hand rammed up your rib cage holding onto your heart, and every time you think about speaking or saying or feeling, I feel a certain way, they just grab it and they're like, you're not allowed to do that. How about you get back to work and stop thinking so much? You know, why don't you do what I say you need to do? And it's so difficult. And whenever they found out, when I worked at this shop and they found out that I was going to be receiving money, I didn't give a fuck how much money I was going to receive. I just wanted my body to be fixed. I wanted to live life again. I wanted my feelings to come back, because I felt like gray matter. I felt empty. So I had this like huge issue with not feeling love after I died and came back. There was a huge loss. I don't know if it was neurological because of how severely I hit my head, or if it was physical because literally behind my heart, the vertebrae are still continuously to this day smashed. I don't know what it was. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but having to submit myself to like going to a chiropractor multiple times a week and all of these things, having to literally repair my spine and my body, my physical body, from such a shock and jolt. I felt there's something in the Mexican culture called a susto, and it's when your soul leaves your body out of fright and it's too scared to come back in. So it felt like that. I felt like I didn't have a soul for a very long time. I felt gray and mindless and going, and it hurt. I could feel it. I knew, logically, I knew there was something wrong. I knew, I was like, I can't feel feelings. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything. Do you understand how horrific life is without feelings? It fucked me up. It fucked me up. And then I'm sorry, I'm fucking cold. I'm actually really, really cold. So I keep like hiding my fingers because they're turning light. They're turning white. Anyways, this metaphysical shop was run by this narcissistic drug addict, and they could smell money, and they took me as their goose, and they shoved their hand as far as they could up my rib cage until they got to my heart, and they just held it. And anytime I felt, it was like getting close to me and be like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if like somebody could give us money so we could buy a like a compound, we could all live there. We could all live there. But it's like something I feel like somebody, I feel like it's meant for us. I feel like, wouldn't it be so nice if we all lived there and we could have classes and do a yoga retreat thing, and there would be ways to bring in more money and more people, because spirituality is like so in right now. So wouldn't it be so nice if somebody had just, gifted us the money so we could go buy one? And it was like every conversation I had with this person was them trying to manipulate something out of me. And I knew it, I could see it, but I couldn't feel anything. And I couldn't even cry. So I was confused, and I was throwing up all the time because I had severe vertigo. It would feel like the world inverted on itself out of nowhere, and I would scream really loud. It was a very confusing time. And while they were sitting there trying to unravel me and sew me up how they wanted. And so anyways, it's just, let me explain something on side notes. So all the things I've said, like, oh wow, blah blah blah, Crispin, blah blah blah, right? I accidentally was interested in something. I was interested in the movie Willard on accident. It was just something super subconscious. I saw it and I said, I was immediately like attracted to the idea of watching this movie. Not like sexually. It's when I talk about attraction, I mean like a magnet. Like I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time, which is almost like a treble hook being shoved into my heart and ripped forward. And I think I've said this in other videos or whatever, but it started off so innocently, like I felt like a treble hook in my heart, and that was extremely uncomfortable for me. So I was like, well, every day it was like I was getting closer and closer and closer to this like feel like an action of like watching this movie. I was like, okay, so I'll watch it. Fine. I don't know. That's weird that I feel a certain, you know, to it. And then, like I said before, I was like, wow, this is the most amazing thing I've seen in a very long time. It was like very like healing for me in some way, and it like clicked something in my subconscious mind, and it started going again. And I've said it in a vlog before that I was extremely confused. I laid on the floor for a little bit, like just sitting there. Like it felt like my soul had come back into my body, and I was like, no, this is strange. This is strange. Or it was coming back to my body. It was a very, very strange sensation. So I did research, and I was like, oh, obviously he's just a person. This is just silly. These are things like strange occurrences happening, chemicals within the skin being, whatever. It's science. There's feelings and things like that. So then I did more research on him, and then I started enjoying like the stuff he was doing as a real human being. And then I was like, holy shit, actually this person's out here doing this, and he's saying things and doing things that like I just felt so resonated to. Like it was so strange. And I made a joke about how out of the abyss all these people like came out of nowhere and were like, like they were like, I was like, that's peculiar. Who are you people? What is happening? It started off as a treble hook in my heart, yanking, 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 And then I watched Willard, and then I started investigating. Who is this person? Who is this person? Who is this? Who is this alabaster stone figure in a suit? Who is this? And then it became like a very sad thing, because I realized like how much I let my life be completely fucked, because I had a belief of what I thought was what I was doing right at the time, which is, all of these things. Like I used to, like I would serve people that I agreed with their mission, and I was their little doll, and I would go do things, but at the cost of my psyche being obliterated by all of the strange things happening behind the scenes in my life. Like I went to go do a news interview. I was on the news. I wanted to be in broadcasting. I wanted to do theater and drama. I love it. It's one of my great loves, other than wanting to be a mortician. And then it was like this. The girl brought a gun to the news station on accident, and I had to hold all of these things within myself. I had to really like expand to hold all of these strange traumatic events that were continuously happening, because I kept like seeking out what I desired. I wanted to serve and be in the metaphysical realm. I wanted to connect people to their gods via, what do you believe? What do you think? What do you believe? I loved sharing ideas and trying to figure out how people worked and what they thought, and how interesting and beautiful each individual person really is whenever you are in an intimate, safe place, and they can bloom and tell you things intimately, and you could tell them things without without feeling a barrier of like, oh, you're going to try to tell everybody. It was just so cool and amazing to sit there at a tarot card counter, to be the tarot girl, and people come up to you and just tell you the strangest things, and they're not strange, because I have something I would like to share as well. So there was this beautiful sharing of ideas, and just being intimate, truly, truly intimate, without fear. It was like two subconscious minds talking and meeting and dancing. There was this beautiful dance of intimacy happening between myself and all of these strangers, in a non-sexual way, a non-threatening way, just in like this glorious I don't know, it felt so magical to share and to be open, finally, after like 27-25 years of being alone and having nobody to talk to, being, from a big city moving to a small town filled with crime and racism and, all of these psychotic things, Christianity and hate, moving from like a place where love could exist, and family, and being seen and doing the things you want, and there were so many opportunities to nothing, to zero, to the land and realm of complete, like me being isolated for many years and living within the halls of my subconscious mind alone. And so seeing somebody else um, physically doing something that is so, to me, magnificent and I guess captivating, really cool. It's freeing. I feel like I can actually exist again, and I feel like the susto, the shock, the fright, has left my body, and then my soul has come back into my body, and it gives me chills talking about it. But I do. I feel like when Peter Pan has to try to sew his shadow to his foot, and Wendy's like, "Boy, why are you crying?" I feel like this very interesting exhilaration of being whole again, and feeling the freedom to just be intimate again without fear, without susto, without the fright, the shock of my soul wanting to consciously and constantly leave my body because, oh my god, what if. I always had this strange fear of, like, what if I speak the truth and somebody kills me? That was always the thing. It was always the fear with me. What if I say something and I die because of it? So I had like this extreme hang up on me. And so art was like my special little place, or theater or drama or acting out these things was my special little place in the world. Here in this tiny town, I was always a part of choir and theater and singing and going to places like the opera house and watching the ballet and plays and stuff, going to Galveston and Houston on field trips, multiple field trips, because I was so lucky that I would move from, how do you say, school to school, and I would go to a field trip at this school, and then a couple months later I'd move, and then the different school would have a field trip as well I would get to go on to, which most of them were like seeing plays and the opera house and ballet and stuff like that. So I was so excited, and one time we went to a hockey game, and that, if you've never been to a hockey game, I highly suggest you go, because even talking now, my heart is like getting warm. I feel like the Grinch. I feel like the Grinch at the end of that story. Just my heart, That's how I've been feeling with the seasonal changes, and then seeing like for 30 years I had no idea that this person existed on planet Earth. Do you understand how like fucked up that is? So I was just so, what? There's somebody out there doing these things? I thought I was just crazy. Like, I was just so alone. I thought I was just batshit crazy. But you're telling me, like, it's okay. You're giving me permission to exist, kind of thing. It's great. It's fantastic, and I'm very grateful. I feel extremely grateful for it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a strange sensation. It's hard to explain. All of these things being said, your art's important. My art's important. Everybody's art is important. The other day, I took my son to the library for some reason, and it was the first time that I had been to this library in so long. I don't go there because when I was a kid I was so obsessed with books. I was so hungry for knowledge and books and expansion of like my brain. I just loved learning. I love gathering information. Obviously I sit here saying like people watching and gathering information. I'm such an information gatherer, and then eventually once I'm full I start cooking, and then the timer dings, and then this new creative thing comes out of me, and that process is so much fun. My personal creative process, I love it. It's so much fun to me. I'm just like, yeah, super excited. But I took my son to the library, and he was playing with some kids, and there was a little puppet stage and everything, and I was like, is that a puppet stage? Because I used to puppeteer, so it's just like, that's really cool. They do stories here. So in this community there are things for people to do. You just have to seek them out, but they're always like, Jesus is like laid over everything, so it kind of like chokes out a certain type of person. It's hard for me to want to get down like James Brown with the people in my community, because it's just everything that Christ is over it, and not Christ as in the Christ consciousness of pure divine love and acceptance and truth, right? It's Christ as in like Jesus fucking Christ. And so it's Southern Jesus, which is weird. Southern Jesus is strange, but the Christ consciousness is divine and beautiful and lovely, and it's just beautiful. I love Christ as in the Christ consciousness, which can be like activated and tapped into at anybody could do that. You know what I mean? It's not just one person. It's a whole way of existing. So anyways, sorry, my son was at the library. They had a whole kids corner, and I was like, okay, you could play here. And I ended up finding a yearbook from my 8th grade year, and I was just looking at all of these people's, and I was like, wow, this is bizarre, seeing all the friends I still had, seeing all the friends I've lost. It was very sad, and then bizarre and beautiful, but I felt another piece of my soul. I'm just soul gathering right now, and every time I gather a fraction of my soul, I just feel more complete, and like, it's so healing. So anyways, my son was fiddling in the child's area. Nobody was at the library. Maybe one other family with their small children. And my son had taught, he's 8, he taught himself how to play piano. He taught himself how to play piano. So he was over there playing. He knows You Are My Sunshine, I think. And he knows 3 songs, possibly 4. He says he's working on a 4th one. He's 8. I'm very proud of him. And his art's important. His art is so important. And I tell him, I'm like, do it. Do it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Because, like, this is amazing what you're doing. You have the drive, so keep going. And so, anyways, whenever he learned his first song on his own, I had this whole party for him because he had learned piano by himself without anybody teaching him. And I want to make sure people feel seen and validated and successful within their creative endeavors. So I bought him a cake. I made them spray paint it into, like, not spray paint, but like they did an airbrush of like certain colors, and we had a little congratulations party because it's important. So he was playing the piano in front of these kids, and it's the first time he had ever done that, like openly, people watching that were not just his family. He hasn't even done that for his cousins, so just his immediate family. And everyone started clapping, and they were like, bravo, bravo, and they gave him, they were proud of him. And he came up to me and he was like, that's the first time I've ever felt like this before. And I was like, that is really important. I said, there's going to be many more times in your life that you're going to feel like that if you just keep following it and do what you want. And these are my kids, and I try to give them the things I did not have, which is love and which is love. And so I tell them, like, I'm so proud of you. That's one thing I never heard. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. This is amazing. That is success. You're doing it. Continue to do it because you're good at it, and you'll get better every day. He's really big into creating. He reminds me of H.P. Lovecraft. He does, because he creates these intricate monsters that come from his, childlike realm. And when he does, sorry to speak on something, but he reminds me of a little Stephen King or H.P. Lovecraft. And so I promote that within him because he wants to do that. So I don't ever tell him, like, oh God, that's strange what you're doing. That's weird. It's bizarre. I don't think anybody would like that. He's never heard me say that before in his fucking life. Okay? And so he hit the ground running. And in my humble opinion, I feel like he's just going to be a really creative person. He is a really creative person. But anyway, so he creates these monsters and creatures, and then from these pictures he creates pictures, and then he creates backgrounds, and from the pictures he makes concept art as well. And it's really good, very compelling and scary and good. But then he makes different, like, storyboards for them, and he will do a whole thing on, like, how they would look if they're hunting, how they would look when they're stationary, how they would look behind a wall, or how, and then he compiles these pages into his binder, and he will then create a whole myth, a whole legend behind the creature that he has named something. And he'll come to me with ideas, and he's like, okay, but I don't ever try to guide him. I'm just there as support. I'm there while his spine is developing, his confidence. While he is there, I am supporting that development, but I allow it to develop in the way that it wants to develop, the way he wants to develop. So yeah, that's just what I do. Something I didn't have. So because I'm so immortally wounded from lack of love and self-confidence. It's important for me to see people out there confidently doing things in a realm, like living their lives in ways that I feel so fucking like happy to see and witness. Witnessing people doing things that you want to do. Like there's that thing called body doubling or whatever. It's like when you see somebody, you feel like, oh, okay, there's a strange, I don't know if it's body doubling. I could be wrong about this, but it's like when you see somebody doing the thing you wish you could do. But you know that it exists now. You know you're not just crazy and these aren't just like cooked up fantasies. Somebody can, that's a possibility, I suppose. On planet Earth, it's a possibility for someone to live in such a way. And I always wanted to do that. And so it's cool to see that possibility a reality. It goes from the realm of existing in your fantasy to like, wow, hey, look. No, look, there's somebody doing that. And I guess that goes back to representation matters, but it's not just like ethnic or like, you know, human cutout representation of like what shapes are, you know. It's not just the abstract concept of like I see a shape that looks like my shape, we are both the same shape. It's not like that. It's like I see somebody doing the dances that I wish I knew how to do and have such a connection to, and it's beautiful to witness it. It just feels really good. And like I said, there's other people such as like Chapel Roan, who she sets glorious and healthy boundaries with everybody and everything, and she just doesn't give a fuck about truly like what did David Bowie say? Is it playing the gallery? Is that what he says? Playing the gallery. Maybe perhaps I'll put it here. I find a lot of inspiration from oddball eccentric characters because I too am one, and I feel like I love David Bowie so much. I used to have dreams about him all the time when he died. It was very strange. But every time he came to me, he had in my dreams. I'd be working at the shop behind the counter doing, you know, I had to do book coding and I like charts. So I was doing book coding and like, you know, the ISBN codes and stuff like that. Scanning, putting them on, organizing. To me, it was fun. I liked it a lot. But I had this dream that David Bowie came to me and he had iridescent skin. It was almost like there was a membrane on top of his skin, and he was like alabaster, like stone, um, very like to me like a statue. And I was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he like looked almost like space-like, like this sounds so strange, but he looked like a statue as well as had this like holographic membrane, like this thick over his entire body, and written on underneath the membrane that you could see through was the formula for antimatter was written on his back like in hieroglyphs. It was so bizarre. It was such a bizarre dream. I have very vivid strange dreams, but I remember just being like, wow. And it was strange, but it was beautiful. And I've had other dreams about David Bowie too after he passed away, but that one was very peculiar. And I was like, I can't even. I felt almost shameful speaking about my dreams because they're strange. Not just my dreams, as in my desires. I do feel shameful. I have always felt shameful sharing my desires because nobody around here likes horror movies, taxidermy, theater, music, the way I do here, dressing the way I do, feeling the way I feel, having thoughts, being intimate and open in a non-sexual way, just like in a really like, I don't know, neurological way, I suppose. Feeling that freeness of, you know, communication. Nobody around here is like that. So when I do speak my desires, I'm like, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I desire to do with my life. I would like to be a mortician. And then, like, on a side note, I'd like to do barrel racing and perhaps get into theater. Maybe I'll go to the college and sign up for one of the plays or something. And then, you know, after that, I come home and I hang out on my homestead, like in the middle of nowhere, and just grow hay and have horses and cattle and things like that. People are like, what are you? What are you? You know, I have a very specific type of life I would like to live, and in my hardest of hearts, I think I've always said that I would love to have a ranch, but I've also loved to be a mortician, and I would like to get into barrel racing as well as the arts. I like the arts. But it's extremely difficult when I do speak these desires. Not only am I questioned with, what are you? Who are you? What's going on with you? The being seen sometimes comes at the price of getting, I guess in the nicest ways, like ego hits, where people are just like, you shouldn't exist. You're a freak. You're weird. That's fucking weird. You fucking weirdo. You psycho. You're so strange. And then the favorite thing for people in South Texas to say is, Whore of Babylon, Lucifer's slut. You are the devil worshiper. You are the devil's whore. Yeah. That's like their favorite thing to say to me. Their favorite insult to me, other than like, it's not Halloween, is like them, because mostly they're Abrahamic and Christian, is for them to label me Jezebel, whore of Babylon, Jezebel, whore of Babylon, or like Lucifer's slut, the devil's whore. They love saying things like that. If you have any kind of intelligence within your body and you live in the South, if you have any kind of, and you're not in a democratic major city with over 4 million people, 2 million people, 8 million people, baby, honey, I'm rocking with about 9,000 homies here, and each individual loves Jesus fucking Christ. And so it's extremely difficult to have any kind of intelligence that's not just like, oh, I want to reproduce and have more kids and more stress. Like, that's the only thing here, and that's extremely annoying, and I feel stupid staying here. I feel stupid. I feel like an idiot. But whenever you start talking about your ideals and your dreams and what you want to do with your life, and you talk to loud enough for anybody around here to hear, whore of Babylon, whore of Babylon, you're Jezebel, Lucifer's like, devil worshipping hell. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm fucking not. They're like, obviously you are. That's all I know. And so they don't have big boy words. They can't really hold a conversation. And so I feel like that's how I feel like I'm talking, and they can't hear me. I'm just like, they're just like, see, she's a demonic, evil slut who only wants our men and to lead us into the wilderness to eat us. And yeah, that's true. No, I'm kidding. I don't want your men. I don't give a fuck about your life. I don't care that you go to church. I don't care that you hate everybody that doesn't look like you. I don't care that you can't even fucking, I just don't care. The thing is that I don't care about, I don't really care. I would like to be able to open myself up without accidentally opening up a whole fucking can of worms as to why do I exist in the first place. It's just like a huge, the villagers against Frankenstein's monster, I suppose, is what's happening here. So they get their pitchforks and torches, and they head straight to me. But I do have a tiny community of the little 1% of the oddballs and outcasts and people who are different here. But like I think I've said before, there's like a self-regulation that happens within them because with the oddballs and outcasts and things of that nature, there's addiction because they're in pain and they're seeking out some kind of comfort. And I don't shame anybody for anything like that, but there is a self-regulation that happens. You can't just rock it straight, you can't just really rock life straight and expect to create a community with 1% of people out of 9,000 and not run into severe mental illness that is sometimes undiagnosed and untreated. Like I deal with people with severe mental illness all the time. At the metaphysical shop I did, there was nothing wrong with it. I can talk to them. I'm really good with talking to people who do have like mental illness, and I'm very respectful and mindful of like what's going on. But it's whenever you deal with the people who have I don't know, they're true villains, and not in the way that the word has come about, or the word villain came about, where people were talking ill about poverty people that lived in the villas or whatever, the villages. A villain used to mean just like something in opposition to the wealthy. So poor people, right? I don't mean villain like that. I mean villain as in like a fucking bad guy, like a very true bad guy. People who, the people who manipulate, abuse, try to silence, shove their hands as far as they can up your rib cage, in order to control and silence any type of true soul expression that a human tries to have, unless it is beneficial for their personal monetary gain, which is extremely disgusting. It is the worst thing. It's the worst thing ever. Well, not really, because there are things far, far worse. Things that I've witnessed personally that are far worse. But on an artistic level, on a creative level, on the levels that I am speaking about today, like obviously there's other things within the human psyche that are far worse than just somebody manipulating someone for financial gain. There is, but the devastation that happens on that level, the game that's played is extremely unfair. You're not aware of it at first. I guarantee you, you will not be aware of it until you're in the middle of it. And they've moved enough of their pieces to entrap you and enclose you and hold you there. And some people don't come back from it. Some people lose themselves completely for the sake of like financial gain and monetary security, which is just stupid. It's stupid. It's dumb. But I think that there is a whole entire spectrum of the game being played at every single level, and it's exhausting when you step back and look at all of the moving pieces and parts and people and how far deep we are fucked and things like that. So the only thing you can do within that cage is sing. You whistle and sing, and hopefully somebody could hear you. And when they do, or when you hear somebody else, you go, hey, I'm here too. Like, where are you at? I hear you. I can't see you yet, but I hear you. Where are you at? In the darkness, it feels nice seeing similar people and archetypes expressing themselves in a certain way. It just feels nice to see it. I don't know what that is. I'm not a fucking doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a professor. I'm just, honestly, a humble, orphaned entity stuck on this space rock. So, all of these things being said, what the fuck did I just tell you guys? Can I think in my hardest of hearts, can I pull this rabbit out of my hat? I'm extremely proud of my children. I love giving them the life that I did not have. I love giving them just the love and support that I did not have. I have an issue with self-confidence because of the lack of things that have, the lack of support I had. My support had to come from within, from a special realm, from a realm of shadows, one that doesn't exist here on this earthly plane. And so whenever I find something that is supportive of the way I feel internally and I see it externally, number one, it's rare. It's extremely rare. It is extremely rare. And to see somebody and to witness somebody doing it so well, doing what they do so well, what seemingly like, how do you say, with such ease and grace. It's beautiful. It is witnessing art, seeing somebody like that. I find it to be extremely captivating, and I'm happy for it. And then another thing is susto, dealing with shock and fright within the body from such traumatic events, such as like being manipulated by a high level, very powerful narcissist and being essentially completely cut off and outcasted and sent out into the desert because I didn't agree with somebody trying to abuse me for monetary gain. That's difficult, and yet I was supposed to be the puppet, the girl, the one with all the responsibility, the face of the thing, and I was supposed to go out and do whatever they needed me to do, to go to the news stations, to do interviews, to be the face of this operation, things of that nature, while in the background there was just all of this heavy stuff happening constantly, this very heavy hitting um, drama that was happening behind closed doors on between everybody. It was so much. It was so much. It was a job. It was a job. And so all of these things. I think that what I am dealing with now is the collection of fragments of my personal soul and like sewing them up to my feet, much like Peter Pan, and listening to stories and just being back in my body and allowing my soul to exist within it is so nice. To have a fire burning in the hearth is, it feels like God's real. If you can understand what I'm saying, it feels like there's something that is guiding, a guiding light, a true guiding light within the fireplace of my soul, and it is burning, and it is something I want to protect within myself. So where does this like divine Promethean inspiration come from? Sometimes, I mean, as of lately, it came from just witnessing Crispin Glover's career and being like, holy shit, there's somebody out there who understands, who gets it. I thought I was alone. I thought I was just going through an extremely rare amount of circumstances, a rare, strange amount of circumstances that only I understood. Holy fuck. But that's not true. So, that being said, it's important. Taking inspiration from that, witnessing somebody going through things and sharing their story and existing outside of just their house. It's important for me to sit here and exist here as well as share things, because what if there's other people like me? So there could be. It wasn't just me. I'm not alone on this space rock. So are there other people out there like me? Possibly. The only way that they're going to find me, it could take 30 years. It took me 30 years to find Crispin Glover, to find out that he existed. So it could take 30 years for someone to find this video. It could. But let's say they do find it, and then they don't feel alone in these dark caverns of the of the psyche, So anyways, I'm gonna go. And I have to edit this video. I always get to the end of the videos and I go, oh my god, I'm gonna have to edit this video. I don't even know what the fuck I said. I know it was true, but I just don't know what I said. All these things being said, maybe honor your own creative divine light. If you're suffering from susto, the best thing you could do is retrace your steps, follow the breadcrumbs. That sounds so vague, but it's true. Your subconscious will always try to help you. It will. Sometimes it hurts because it is hurt, but there is healing that happens when you listen to the crying child that has been buried deep beneath the floorboards, and you rip to find it and save it and notice that instead of, you find a mirror and you look into it and it's yourself. It's yourself, and it is your soul. So listen to yourself to an extent. Obviously not to horrible intrusive thoughts. I think the listening I'm trying to tell you is that there is a creativeness within everybody. There's a fire from the gods, and it lives within you, and there's a home for it within you, and the thing you have to do, your mission, is to protect it, and when it gets low, you have to feed it, and sometimes you have to leave the house completely and go searching and borrow light from somebody else's hearth. So, okay, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.